Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Money and Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Sharika Alford, and I'm here with.
And Trisha Bray Smith.
Today, we are continuing our Life Stages series. We're talking about the 40s, finances in your 40s. And for us, I guess that's now in real time, up close and personal.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, so 40s, I know for me it's a good decade. I'm just gonna say that right now. I know I'm not all the way through it, but I'm being hopeful and positive. It's gonna be a good decade. This is gonna be my decade of paying off all the things that I've gotten myself into up to this point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it has definitely been an eye opener for me. I'm new on this journey. I was 40 something when I started this journey. I'm in my mid 40s now, and I'm living my best life. My best life is now. I'm more fulfilled in my life. My finances are in a better shape than they've ever been. And not to say that there won't be some hardships and some things that come against me along the way, but the habits and the mindset that I have now, there are just no turning back from that. So I've got some footing up under me now that regardless of the things that impact us financially and the things that impact our mindsets and things like that, we're in the best place right now
Yes.
in life. And so there were a lot of lessons learned, a lot of wisdom along the way, and to me, it's just there's no turning back. So 40, yeah, a lot. If I knew then what I know now, things would look a lot different. But we can not go back and turn back the time and make those changes, but we can impact the generations under us so that those changes can live on past our time.
Yes, I agree. No regrets. Absolutely no regrets. I've said it before. I believe if you change one thing, you change everything. So this journey has not been smooth all the way through, and nor do I expect it to be in the future either. But I'm excited, looking forward to greater things, and because of the lessons that I've learned in my 20s and 30s, and even even now from my kids, even I can apply those things to make it work out for the better. So yeah, like I said, I'm cleaning up everything that I've got myself into up to this point, which isn't too terribly bad. We have our usual, the cars, the mortgages, that sort of thing, the student loan, and you guys are my accountability partners. If the good Lord says the same, by May of this year, we should have that student loan completely paid off. So I you know, I don't know what it is about student loans. I don't know. How is it that you can pay off 7 credit cards, 3 cars, a mortgage, and all the other things, but those student loans, somehow they seem to just hang on. I don't know. If anybody figures out that formula, please do send us an email at moneyandmindsetpodcast@gmail.com. If you have any secrets, tips, tricks on how to eliminate
Them
student
hidden
loans
figures,
quicker, yes,
them
please
hidden
share
figures
it
is
with us.
triggering us. Yes.
Yes. So, I always joke. I say, well, I say my student loan, but actually it's an inherited student loan for my husband. But this is another episode. You become married, you kind of, all that stuff kind of blends together. So, good, bad, ugly, whatnot. But it's all good. It's all good. So, what you got to say over there, Ann?
I have no words, no words whatsoever. So yes, I I'm caught up in that trap. It is what it is, and it's all about preparation. Our younger kids that are coming up under us, they don't have to fall into that trap.
Yes, yes. And speaking of preparation and our kids, that are coming up after us, you know, once you hit around about the late 40s, early 50s, you kind of start falling into that sandwich generation, the generation to where you're focusing on trying to get your kids graduated from high school and on into college and getting that taken care of. But then on the other side, you know, you have your parents and maybe other relatives that you may be trying to help take care of. They're getting older, so kind of in the 40s, that that kind of start. And I know that some of you, if you're in your mid to late 40s, you may find yourself in that the sandwich generation, the generation where you're sandwiched in between sending your kids off to college and your parents, or, you know, if there's another older loved one that you may be caring for, they're getting older. So you're split between caring for them and paying for college, plus trying to pay for everything that goes on in your own home. So the 40s, that's this is this is quite a journey. I'll say that. It's a journey.
For sure, for sure. It's a lot of lessons learned, a lot of things that can come at you as a distraction, but we have to stay focused on what the priorities are, those priorities, what our goals are, and stay focused on that. I think that's what helps keep me as grounded as possible, especially when uh, things come that are unexpected. You know, I talk to my mom every day now. You know, Dad, he's passed on. I wished I could have some of these conversations with him in preparation for what has occurred over the past year. Uh, as this month is the anniversary of his homegoing, but also with my mom, talking to my mom who's 60 something now. She's in her early 60s, and she's going to work every day. She's putting in 40 hours a week. Uh, and sometimes it's hard for her to get up out of bed and get around. And so I'm talking to her now about, let's implement a plan. Let's put a plan in place. Let's put some living benefits in place. Let's look at what Social Security looks like for you now. Let's look at what we can do to minimize the hours that you're having to get up and go spend on a job, you know. In my 40s, where I'm also living my life, you know, I have a husband now, I have grown kids that need guidance and support. And um, there's a financially still things I have to put in place. And so you have money that could potentially be going out in five different ways. Uh, and the income dries up quick. But then I have to also continue to stay focused on what does my future look like? What does my retirement years look like? What happens if my health fails? What happens? Uh, I'm looking at my husband; his health is failing. You know, uh, what does that look like? And so I had to have that hard conversation with him as well. What if there's only one income at the end of the day, and one is having to be a caregiver at the end of the day? What does that look like? So yeah, 40 is it's not easy. You know, we're
Yeah.
empty nesters, so to speak, or whatever, but uh, there's still things that we're going to have to assume responsibility for. And that I feel like that we are responsible for and that we have to deal with that sometimes some of us more than others, depending on what the family dynamics
Yeah.
look like.
Yeah. So true. So true. With all the things that come with 40, as you mentioned in the previous episode, by now, if you're in your 40s, if you have not implemented your life insurance or your financial plan, now is time is winding down. It's really, really important to get those things set up. If you have someone that's relying on you for, you know, the income that you provide, if something were to happen to you, how would the bills get paid? How would they be able to survive? So we want to keep an eye on those things. Also, at this point, if possible, you really want to start looking at reducing your monthly expenditures, you know, your cost of living each month. Start really focusing on hammering out that debt. Like I know, like I stated earlier, that's one thing that we're hyper focused on right now is clearing out all the debt, because if the good Lord allows me to see 50, I don't want to see debt once I see 50. I want it to be gone by then. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and retirement. So like I mentioned in the episode when we were dealing with the 20s and 30s, you may not think about retirement back then, but 40, you know, time seems to start winding down. So yeah, we are split up in many different
Oh
ways.
yeah, and thinking about it, I've done more in my 40 to establish multiple streams of income than I have in my 20s and 30s combined. Because there's so much financially, so many lessons that we don't know in our 20s and 30s that 40 I'm grateful for knowing. Uh, and I think it's just the dynamics in which our world is transitioning to, and making the shifts to virtual things and so many other opportunities that we didn't know that was there, and being able to monetize on that. So yeah, um, you have to start somewhere.
Hmm.
And so there are many of us. Uh, I'm not the only one that are just now understanding that the wealth or the uh, freedom is not necessarily going to come from our 9 to 5s. There's really other streams of income, other streams of revenue that we have to put in place, whether it's investments, stock markets, whatever that looks like. We have to put it in place in order to be looking at retirement. I don't want to be 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, still trying to go to a job and not enjoying my life. I've given so much and sacrificed so much from my 20s, 30s, and now 40s that I don't want my 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s to look like that. So
Right.
I really do. I just want things to be different. And the only way that they're going to be different is going to take more than just a desire or a want. There are things we have to do right now to implement and put in place in order for that to happen.
Yes, yes, that most definitely. And speaking of the 9 to 5s, of course, the 9 to 5s of today are different than the 9 to 5s of, say, our grandparents' era. They could go to a job, work 30, 40 years, get a nice pension, and they're set. But 2021, things are looking a lot different. So, I don't know. There aren't very many jobs that still pay pensions nowadays. So we have to continue to learn and adapt and do things differently. And like you said, the multiple streams of income, man, that's right up there with having an emergency fund. So, and if you're just joining us on the Money and Mindset podcast, we're dealing with our life stages episodes, and today we're looking at our 40s. We're discussing going through the sandwich generation of raising kids and taking care of those who may be elderly in your family, and also trying to prepare for your own retirement and the challenges that brings. So, the main thing that I can say is, regardless of what you've done up to this point, look for ways to where you can learn how to do better, because it's not about how you start, but it's where you end. So if you say, well, I haven't started saving for retirement yet, or I haven't started paying off debt yet, the best time to start is right now. If you're listening to this podcast, the best time to start is right now. um, you're not going to clear everything up or get to a certain point overnight. That's not reality, but every small step that you take will contribute to your success.
Absolutely well said. Um, I believe this wraps us up for today. I am your host, Antricia Bray Smith.
And I'm Sharika Alford. Take care.